I learned this a long time ago, man. You get that guy on third base, less than 2 outs, you got to get him in.
Yep.
When you're playing defense, there's a runner on first, or you have first and third for the opponent, and that ground ball is hit to short, you got to turn double play. There are things that have to happen in order for you to win. And those are basic fundamentals that go into winning. And they get glossed over sometimes because we get focused on how many home runs this guy hit, how many blown saves this guy got. You just got to play the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Let the fans beat the fans, beat the Mets fans. Voices rising up from the stands. Hear the cheers, hear the calls, feel their highs, feel their moles. Stories untold now on the mic. Mets fans unite.
Welcome back to Meet the Mets fans. I'm your host, Stefan, here with my co-host, Justin. And guys, we're super excited, Met fans, to bring to you. We have Howard Johnson, HoJo, live on the podcast with us. Welcome to the show, Howard.
My pleasure, guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's an honor to have you over here. You are a Mets icon, a legend. This is the 40th anniversary, obviously, of that 86 World Series team. And so it's just a perfect time to have someone like you on this podcast. And we can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes with us.
Absolutely, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, so we're super young podcast. Getting someone like you is a big get for us. So we really appreciate you taking the time and giving it to us. We'll jump right in. Like Justin said, 40th anniversary of the 1986 team. This first few rounds of questions will kind of surround the 86 team and your playing career. When you think back to that season, what's
Yep.
the first memory that comes to mind?
Man, well, I got over there in 85 after the World Series in 84
Right.
with Detroit. So coming over there, the team was already pretty much built. I knew they had success the year before. So it's kind of, the expectations were pretty high in 85. Doc doing what he was doing, Straw being a young player, just kind of coming into his own. And with Keith Hernandez, and then we got Gary Carter just after my trade. So the team was basically stacked and ready to go. And I was just glad to be a part of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we know that Gary Carter, 3 days after they trade, that you come on, Gary Carter then gets traded on. And so what was that like for you guys when you guys, now both of you guys are coming into this clubhouse? As you said, the 85 team has success. And you guys are now these new guys coming into this, I don't want to say established clubhouse, but you guys are coming into this clubhouse. What was that like for you guys walking into a team that already had previous success and now coming into this in the 86 season?
Well, for me, it's probably different than Gary. Gary was definitely glad to be there because he wanted to win a championship. His time in the big leagues was getting short. And at his age, he really wanted to win that championship. And of course, for me, I was just a young player still. And I was willing to do whatever Davey, the organization wanted me to do, I was willing to do it. They made it pretty clear to me that I was going to be splitting time with Ray, and he and I were going to hold down third base. And eventually I'd become the third baseman at some point. But, we had a great locker room. I mean, everybody in there, from Ray Knight to Kid to Straw to Doc, everybody, Keith, everybody was on board and wanted to win that championship. And so 85 was kind of built to do that, and we fell a little bit short. So going into 86, added a couple more things. Tuffle came over from Minnesota. Bobby Ojeda came over from Boston. So we had pieces, and the team was, I would say at 86, it was win or bust. I mean, that was just our mindset.
What made you think like this is special, right? Like what about that 86 team at one point in the season did you say, hey, we got something special that's coming right now?
I would say probably right from the beginning. Really, I'm backing up to 85. At the end of 85, the team really felt like, okay, we have something here. We know who we have to beat. We got to beat St. Louis. And then 86 started, and the whole thing was we got to beat the Cardinals. Now, if we just do that, we can win the division and go from there. And that's exactly what happened. But it was a dogfight. I mean, the Cardinals were good. They were coming off pretty good season in 85, and World Series, maybe they could have won. It was just one of those things, but we were just ready to go in 86, and all the pieces were there, and the guys that came in were just willing to do whatever. And so when you have that mentality as your core mentality in the locker room, and everybody's on board pulling the same way in the rope, things were going to happen. As long as we didn't get injuries, I felt like we were going to win. And fortunately for us, we stayed away from anything major, and the guys that filled in when we did have injuries did great. Davey was great at using the whole roster. So he wasn't just looking at 2 or 3 guys. He was looking at all 25 on the roster, and then guys in the minor leagues that could come up and help at the same time.
Absolutely. So you talked about that locker room, how dynamic that locker room was, the fun that you guys were having. When we hear as young Met fans about that, right, about that
Yeah.
experience that you guys were having, it's often described as like a very colorful locker room. So what was that clubhouse like on a day to day with personalities like Keith Hernandez, Doc, Darryl, Gary Carter? What was it like being in that locker room?
Well, there was a lot of fun. Obviously, it was a blast because every day there was something going on. Roger was pulling some prank. Guys were playing jokes on each other, whatever. Played a lot of cards. Different games and stuff together. We just did a lot of things together. But be honest with you, like the biggest thing I always want to stress is that everybody came ready to play the game. That night was all that mattered. Wasn't we were just worried about where we're going to go after the game or what we're going to do the next day. It was always like, okay, here's the game. We're going to win and we're going to figure out a way to win. And Davey did a great job of keeping everybody focused on that. And the players bought into it. And be honest, it was really easy to go to the field every day knowing that we were probably going to win that night. And especially we had a guy like Doc out there, it was just going to change the whole dynamic. So it was really cool.
So early on in your career, right, you win 2 World Series,
Yeah.
one in 84 with Detroit. You then come over in 85 to the Mets, and then you win it again now in 86. And so
Yes.
at this point in your career, you're like, is this easy? Right? Like, is it now easy to win World Series?
Wow. Well, it was easy in 84. 84, man, we just cruised through the playoffs. I mean,
Okay.
beat Kansas City 3 straight, beat San Diego in 5. So 86, it turned out to be a lot tougher, with
Okay.
Houston and Boston. But yeah, I was just blessed, man, to be on a good team and that organization that believed in what I could do and how I could contribute. And so I was thrilled and very thankful to be over there and be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, right? Like to get 2 World Series at such a young age like that. Is there a comparison between the 84 and the 86 World Series for you? Like, was one more impactful or did they both just have kind of a similar impact on you?
Well, I mean, 84 impacted me in the fact that we had a great team from the beginning and kind of cruised through.
Right.
I knew from an up close, experience what a good team looked like, what a championship team could look like.
Right.
And going over to the Mets, I saw a lot of the same pieces there and the mindset was there. That was the main thing. Everybody was on board, just wanted to win. It wasn't like, okay, well, we got this new guy over here and a new guy over here. How are we going to make this work? It was just understood that this is what we have to do. This is what you have to do if you want to win. And Keith Hernandez had been on the Cardinals before, and they won, so he kind of knew what it was all about. Carter had been close a few times, and myself going through in '84. So there was guys that were familiar with winning. And it's very hard when you've never done it to kind of say, okay, we're going to do it because you really don't know, what those obstacles are going to be throughout the season. And then you go through the season, there's more waiting for you on the other side, in the playoffs. And so I think the guys were pretty much prepared to win, but we had to go through it. I had to go through Houston, which was a very, very good team in 85, 86. And they had our number in some respects that year, but we felt like we could get by them, and we had a great series against them. And so that was a whole new thing to get through. And I think that really prepared us for the World Series because we started off the World Series very slowly, but we had been a good road team all along. And we felt like if we go to Boston, we're going to come back to New York and handle business. So it was just, some things you got to remind yourself, this is what we've done and this is what we're capable of doing. And once you do that and you succeeded, then it makes those obstacles easier to get by.
So HoJo, I was born in 1988, right? I've been a Met fan. It's been a really long time since Met
Yeah.
fans have experienced a World Series. I've never seen one. Can you describe for us what being on that team meant for you and what it meant for this city, for New York City as a whole? And I know you've been a part of this family, the Mets family, for a long
Yeah.
time. You coached with us after you retired. What did that championship mean for the city of New York? And what would you tell Met fans as we are waiting for that next championship to come our way?
Well, in '86, it's hard to believe, but it was really a Mets town back then. New York City was a Mets all the way. Yankees were just kind of so-so, and there's a lot of people kind of gravitating towards our team. The personalities and everything just kind of made it easy for that. We were doing uh, videos during the season. We were doing, albums during the season for things that were happening that typically don't happen regularly. And we just felt like, hey, man, the city's behind us. Everybody was on our side. And so it was easy, for the city to kind of be behind us. And we fed off it. The fans were extremely crazy about us. The curtain calls every night. It was just insane. And so we fed off the fans' energy, and they fed off of us. So it was just a beautiful, relationship, something that you don't always get. And, I think the Met fans are always waiting for, that shoe to drop. But, we didn't feel that way. We felt like we had everything we needed to win. And so, our attitude the whole time was, we're going to win the division. We're going to get to the playoffs, and we're gonna fight it out. And we had a good team that could do that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Shea Stadium because, we've heard Shea Stadium is rocking, right? Like literally, if you're in the upper stands, right, that you feel like it was swaying. That thing was pretty high up there. Can you
Yeah.
tell Met fans what it was like to be in Shea Stadium, right, during a World Series and what the energy was like there?
Well, the energy was off the charts. You can't really measure it. It was every night we were getting crowds of 40, 50,000. And when Doc pitched, it was just electric. So we used to watch, we could see from the dugout. Shea had these stands that would kind of fold out from below, from back from the football days, right? And so they really weren't on the most stable foundation. And literally, you could see it from the dugout, the stands kind of bouncing up and down when people got crazy. Just to see, like, and Shea was pretty much open in center field area. You had the stands out there, you had the scoreboard and all that, the big scoreboard. But the rest of it was kind of built really, really high. So you could see a good portion of the stands in one glance. And you could see people going nuts up there in the upper deck. And it was amazing, man. It was so loud and it was close. Like the dugouts were very close to the plate. So you could look across and see the other dugout, very clearly. And you could see everything moving around. And it really, when you say it came alive, it did, because it was moving. And we just loved it, man. When we had curtain calls and all that, oh my God, those fans were going nuts, right? And we knew the other teams hated it. And so we just encouraged us more and more to do it,
Yeah.
And it was great, man. Great memories.
Love that.
Sounds amazing. So HoJo, we'll turn a little bit to you specifically as a player. So you, when you played, were one of the most dynamic players in the game. 30 seasons, multiple of them in your career. The baseball game has changed, right? Especially
Yes.
recently. Bigger bases, limited pickoffs. So here's the question. How many bases do you think HoJo would be stealing
Oh,
if
man.
he played now?
Well, I would say quite a few more. I mean, it's just, to me, it's ridiculous to put limits on that and
Crazy.
make the bases bigger. I just don't understand it. The claim was they do it for safety, but it does make an impact on the game. You are changing the dynamic of the game when the base paths shrink, and all the close calls it on first, or if you're stealing a bag, those close calls. If you have a little less room to run, actually, and with replay and everything, I think there'd be a lot more, safe calls on my end. Not that there was a lot of out calls, but I think when you know that a pitcher can only throw over there twice, and you get these guys now they're just getting running starts. To me, that fundamentally changes what the game is about. And I know there's a clock, and I'm okay with that, but that doesn't really fundamentally change the way the game's played. So it's just a little bit, doesn't sit really well with me. I'm not a big fan of those rules, but it is what it is. People like it, so it's here to stay.
Yeah, I'm with you on that two pickoff. It really, it's just, it's such a advantage for the base runner in that capacity, which, if you're playing in that now, that's a huge advantage like you were just talking about. So I'm with you totally
Yeah,
on that.
and the thing is that, pitchers are taught not to worry about the base runner to begin with.
Right.
Unless it's a guy you can run, and then you're going to hold the guy close. But when you get to a point where you can only throw over there twice, you really can't disengage from the mound much. Now, all of a sudden, the focus really is just on the hitter. They're not even worrying about the base runner. So you're taking that whole element of stealing a base and you cheapened it, by making it too easy.
Yeah.
And I'm just stating an obvious fact. It's too easy now. But I mean, like I said earlier, the fans, don't seem to mind it, and it is what it is.
Joe, I want to get to your 91 seasons. That's a season. So Darryl leaves for LA, right? And you are now
Yep.
the center of the offense, right? And so for you wound up taking 2/3 of the Triple Crown that year, right? You lead the NL in home runs and RBIs. Would you say that that's the most successful season that you had personally?
I would say that it's definitely my last good season. After that, physically, I just started breaking down. But 91 kind of culminated in, a lot of things going my way. I stayed healthy pretty much, and I had great players in front of me to get on base and allowed me to do things to achieve those numbers. We didn't have as good a team as I would hope, but you can't have it all, I guess. I just went through the year. I was prepared, mentally prepared, physically good, and I just put it just like I always build a season. I never really look at the year going in and say, okay, I need these numbers.
Right.
At that point, 30-30 had become a kind of a threshold, and that's something that I wanted to shoot for. But I can't control the home runs. I can't really control the stolen bases. That was my main passion, was stealing bases. I always look to get on and try to create, havoc out there and put pressure on the other team. And that was always my passion, was to be able to run and to steal and to make that a game, that within the game that I love to do. And so that was always my number one thing. I would take the walk and I would try to steal. So, I just took the game as it came. And at the end, whatever the numbers are, they are. But yeah, 91 was special. Obviously, with one of my biggest memories I remember is that last game in Philly. And I was tied with Will Clark and Barry Bonds for RBIs to lead the league. And I think they actually played after me. So my last at bat of the 1991 season, hit right-handed against Bruce Ruffin. I got a base hit to right field that drove in my buddy Keith Miller, and that gave me 117. And then I was just, we didn't really have the computer to go and watch the other games unfold. So I had to wait until, later on to find out that they didn't get anything that night. It was good. I mean, I was very happy that was like that, and never even dreamed that I would be in that position ever.
How are you finding out in 91 that you now are the RBI leader? You opened up a newspaper? How does that come to you in that capacity?
I think Jay Horwitz might have called me or told me, said, "Hey, they didn't get any that night, Will or Bonds. So you end up leading the league." And I was like, I couldn't believe it. So
It's awesome.
and that's honest, man. I had no idea until later on.
It's crazy. So HoJo, you returned to the Mets organization and coached with this team for a long time. You've spent some time developing young players. Was there a player in the entire time that you worked in that coaching realm that you felt most proud of helping to develop that player?
Well, that's an easy one for me. David Wright probably is the top player that I've ever coached. Jose Reyes is right there as well. So both those guys are they're like family to me, like sons to me. And David was always a special guy. Had him at every level and got to coach him in the big leagues. Getting a chance to coach with those two was really the highlight of my coaching career. And I have incredible relationships with both of them. And, I can't say enough about both of them. They both worked extremely hard on their game, never were satisfied. They wanted to win badly, and they were easy to coach. I mean, basically, whatever, for example, like whenever David would be hitting in a game, I remember this game where I was coaching, we were in Double-A, Binghamton, and I was first base coach / hitting coach. And so I would watch these guys always from that angle. And I could see little things that David was doing or if he wasn't doing. And I remember this one game in particular, he was just a little bit off in the beginning, his first at bat. And I'd mentioned something to him. I said, "Hey, it looks like you're doing a little bit of this, get back to this. And I think you'll be good." And I think he got like 3 or 4 hits that rest of the night, rest of the day.
Wow.
He hit a home run to center field, that the hardest line drive I've ever seen him hit. And I just knew at that point that this kid was even more special than I thought. And so it's just a matter of time before he's going to be up in New York. Just a matter of time.
Unbelievable. And he was a great player, right? Like, David Wright is a guy that I'm growing up and born in '89. So that's a guy that I follow closely
Yes.
as a fan. And so that's our type of guy, right? Like, growing up into it and developing as a fandom, right? Our David Wright. So we appreciate all the work that you did with him.
Well, thing about David is that he could really run too. He could run, and we stole bases in the minor leagues. I was first base coach, so I was helping him along that, trying to teach him how to, be better and better. And when I got to the big leagues in '07 to coach first, I was a first base / outfield coach until halfway through the year. So I was out there the first half of the year. But after I got the job in '07, it was the off season of '06. and he called me, and he was really excited I got the job. And I told him then, all right, buddy, you're going to go 30-30. That's our goal.
Mm.
And he never thought about that before, but I wanted him to be everything that he could possibly be. And so that includes like expanding your expectations beyond just, the above average. He could be a great player. So we set that as a goal and he achieved it. And he had a great year that year. We should have got to the playoffs. We didn't, but as far as David goes, he achieved way more than I thought he would. And I think he was very happy.
We got to ask, HoJo, do you still follow the Mets closely in 2026?
So I follow him close, but not as close as I don't watch them play every night. No. I follow them on Yahoo, kind of see how the game is unfolding. So I kind of know like who's doing what. Like I know the parts that they've added this year, the parts that they have let go after this year. And it's just too early to say until the World Baseball Classic is over. When it's over, everybody's back and they're just kind of getting the team ready. Then I think we're going to find out exactly what they are.
So you mentioned, right, you've seen like all the offseason transactions and moves that they made. People have talked about how they blew up the core of this team, right? With the Nimmo, the Alonso, right, the McNeils, the Diaz, all going on to play for other teams at this point now. So what are your thoughts on this new impact, right? How big of a difference is it now going to be for the New York Mets in 2026 as this new core, right, is now developed for this team?
Well, it's going to be different, but the way like management sees their team, right? And this is good for fans to understand.
Right.
You have a good core of players with Alonso, right? You got Nimmo, you got some other guys, Diaz. These guys had good years last year.
Yeah.
And building off of where they were, a couple of years prior, where they were against LA, right, in the NLCS, and they didn't win. Okay, so now you fast forward to last year, and all those guys, Soto, Lindor, Alonso, even Diaz, these guys had years. They had years, but they didn't win. They didn't get the third wild card. So what front offices do is they attach numbers to everything. They have their numbers, and if your players are playing well yet not winning and getting to where they need to get to, you have to make changes somewhere.
Right.
And it's the prototypical blow the team up. If you're not winning, you have to move players at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to create a whole new core because the old core is not winning. They got to change something. And unfortunately, it's getting expensive to keep everybody together. So that's the other thing that they have to consider.
Yeah. How much of an analytic guy are you, right? You were mentioning everyone's, there's numbers, right? The front office is looking at all of these figures here. There's dollar amounts on all of these guys. How big are you into analytics, or are you more of a feel type of guy?
I'm more into what my eyes tell me.
Okay.
My eyes tell me what's real and what isn't. The numbers can be massaged and manipulated, and you'll come up with, fake readings. So you got to be able to trust what you see and see how things are working together. If I have good offense, for some reason we're not scoring, something's off. And so that's where the analytics do come into play. You can look into some areas below the surface and try to come up with some answers. But at the bottom line is the game itself just tells you everything you need to know. If you're not scoring, there's reasons why. Are you getting that guy in from third with less than 2 outs? Are you moving runners? Are we relied too much on the home run? Mm-hmm. If that's the case, you're not going to be successful over a long term. And actually, when you get down to a short term, relying on the home run is not a good strategy. You have to be able to create runs out of the simplest things. And you look at the World Series last year, Toronto couldn't score when they had to. Actually, the Dodgers had a hard time going into that home run in late innings. So you just have to just watch the game, and that tells you everything you need to know. And you don't have to go into so much detail. It's right in front of you. So you have to be able to, I learned this a long time ago, man. You get that guy on third base with less than 2 outs, you got to get him in. Yep. When you're playing defense, there's a runner on first, or you have first and third for the opponent, and that ground ball is hit to short, you got to turn double play. There are things that have to happen in order for you to win. And those are basic fundamentals that go into winning. And they get glossed over sometimes because we get focused on how many home runs this guy hit, how many blown saves this guy got. You just got to play the game the way it's supposed to be played.
we have this one last thing that we wanted to do with you, which should go
Okay.
pretty quickly. We call this a quick pitch segment, where we're going to just throw a thought, a prompt at you, and you're going to respond with the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay, so that'll be good.
All right. So here we go. When you attend a Mets game, what's your go-to meal to get there?
Oh, that's a good one. Probably cheeseburger.
Love it. All right. How about favorite city to play in?
Chicago, Wrigley Field, no doubt.
Who is your favorite pitcher to face? The guy you knew you were going to get?
Todd Worrell. Although I will say this, it was always difficult, but for some reason he was throwing where I was swinging. So that was just one of those things where it worked out for me. You know what I mean? He could make guys look silly, but for some reason I had success.
How about the toughest pitcher? The guy that's on the mound, you're like, oh, no, not this guy.
I like to say all of them are tough.
Yeah.
Mark Langston with Montreal, he was a lefty.
Okay.
That was pretty good. He was so good that we knew the pitches he was throwing, like he was tipping everything, and he was still getting us out. So I knew what was coming. I still couldn't get a hit.
Great.
Favorite clubhouse guy to be in there with you? Who's your favorite teammate?
Wow, that's a good one. There's more than one. I mean, Wally Backman and I were hard partners together, and so we were always doing stuff together. Keith Miller is another guy that I just love like a brother. But Roger was always there doing something. So it was very entertaining when he was around. So I liked being around there with him.
How about any baseball rituals or superstitions you had before a game?
So one of the things I would do is if I was going good, so my bats were unfinished lumber, so they would collect pine tar and dirt and everything. They would get all over it. And if I had a bad game, I always would clean the bat with alcohol. So I cleaned it off as clean as I could get it and go out there and play. If I got a hit or did something right, I would just leave it alone. If it was a bad day, which I had quite a few of those, I would clean that thing as spick and span. It looked good.
And so we'll close out on this one. We see that you're a huge Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Obviously,
I am.
You grew up in Florida. What are you most excited for going into next season?
Man, I don't know, man. It's tough. I'm still hurting from Mike Evans going to the Niners, but
I can't believe that. Shocked.
I know. I think Bucs fans had a sneaky suspicion that was going to happen. He was going to leave. But I'm excited to see this year's version because Godwin is coming back from a year of being healthy. Igbuka is going to be a lot better his second year. They got some other guys, Tez Johnson, some other guys that can catch the ball. Bucky Irving, hopefully, is healthy this year for a whole season. But I'm just happy that all the injuries are going to be behind them, and the offensive line should be back intact, which is good. They have a very good offensive line. But it's going to be, I think that one thing, probably the number one thing I'm excited to see is how much better our defense is going to be this season. Because I think last year it was coming. They weren't the greatest defense in the last few years, but they had their moments. But for the most part, this year I think is going to be different. So much focus is going to be put on it that it's going to be pretty good unit.
Well, good luck to Tampa. All right, we're rooting for him just because of you. Right, I'm a Jeff fan over here, so I can't really talk at this point. I've seen no winning in my entire life, so don't matter to me.
What about you, Stefan? What are you?
So I'm a fantasy football guy, which is what I'm actually. It's my one fantasy thing I'm actually good at because I don't have a team that I root for. I use pretty much all the statistics. I'm actually pretty solid at fantasy football. Suck at fantasy baseball because I just take all the Mets.
I just can't believe the Bucs couldn't win one game last year,
and
they let Carolina sneak in on them. I can't believe it.
I mean, Baker was getting MVP chance for the first 5 weeks of the season. He was unbelievable. I know he plays through injuries, which is a huge issue for him. But I'm with you. There was a collapse.
I know that's a good and bad thing.
Yeah,
like you say, when you have to play through injuries. But he got banged up, and unfortunately, that's part of the game. But he's going to have to figure out to be above that, and I know that's what he's thinking right now too. Just get that offensive line back together, we'll be okay.
HoJo, not only is a baseball savant, this guy is an NFL savant, and we appreciate so much, right? You coming on to this podcast. It was an absolute honor meeting you, right? You're a true gentleman, and we can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes with us today.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Good luck to your podcast. Continued success, and we'll come back and do this again.
Sounds amazing. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Got it.
Meet the Mets fans, voices rising up from the stands. Hear their cheers, hear their groans, feel their highs, feel their moans. Stories untold now on the mic, Mets fans unite.